All right, welcome in to the HawgBeat Hoops postgame show. We are live after Arkansas just lost to LSU 95-74. I got Jackson Collier with me. We're from HawgBeat.com, HawgBeat.com. Mason Choate with you. I am the publisher of HawgBeat.com, and we got a lot to get to, Jackson, because the last time we were talking to everybody, it was after the Missouri win. You were feeling great. We were talking about, you got a winnable schedule coming up, some games you can win. You got to beat LSU. That's a winnable game on the road, and things did not go well. So I'm going to give you the floor for a second to just give us your initial thoughts. It's pretty fresh. You haven't done anything other than just sit here and think for a little bit. So let's go. Tell us what you thought.
That was ugly. Lot of thoughts. A lot of thoughts. So, just starting off, Will Baker came into today shooting 29% from three, only shot 1.6 3-point attempts per game this season. He came out hot. Looked like Arkansas was willing to kind of let him shoot that early. I'm not going to say that's a mistake after the first or the second, but there was no adjustment, at least not immediately, to try and minimize that, to make sure you're contesting, to make sure you're crowding him so he doesn't have an open look and have to contest late. One thing that a lot of people will say is, oh, well, they were there. He was hitting shots over people. No, most of his early shots, especially, were him already being at the top of his shooting motion by the time an Arkansas defender is there to contest. That's not contesting. That is not playing good defense. That is being late on your rotation for whatever reason. You need to be there before they get in their shooting motion, or else it doesn't really matter at this level of basketball. When he hit his first two shots, it's one of those days. If you're a shooter, you see some shots go in, you're going to start feeling it. You're going to start making more. I thought the adjustments to try to defend him were either late, inadequate, or non-existent completely. He had a career night, and there really wasn't any answer for it. Defensively, I thought Arkansas wasn't bad for certain stretches, but there were issues with especially guards, but some forwards as well, gambling in passing lanes, trying to create a steal, force a steal, whatever. And I don't think they got a single one. I don't think they generated a single steal when they were jumping those passing lanes like that. And that just led to open baskets, forced the defense to have to help over, rotate over, and then it was an easy basket, either easy three or an easy basket, easy look under the basket. So those two, I think, were the big glaring issues defensively, were the game plan and the lack of adjustment on Will Baker, and then just it was pretty common, the jump, trying to gamble in the passing lanes, cheating on defense, doing that. Offensively, I thought the game was very ugly for most of the game. Didn't understand what exactly Arkansas was trying to do in the first half. It was more of that same weave around the perimeter motion, really late hitting actions, going into some ISO, and a lot of standing around too. Musselman has had this tendency this season to where he'll put one guy in the corner and run an offense with the other four. I don't really understand what the point of that is. I don't think it really worked all that well. There were times where Arkansas had success scoring in transition. I think that was even one of our stats that we have going up on the bottom. Arkansas led in fast break points, scored 19 fast break points to LSU's 8. When they went on their run towards the end of the first half, Arkansas cut it to 12, and they kept pushing tempo. At one point, Mekhi Mitchell forced a steal, got the steal, and is trying to push tempo and pass it up to his point guard, Keon Minifield. Keon Minifield, for whatever reason, as the point guard, was not looking for the ball. It didn't look like, from viewing at home at least, that he was not looking for the ball. Ended up being a turnover, and then we saw the flare up between Mekhi Mitchell and Eric Musselman, which, not going to speculate, I'm going to guess that is what it was over. Could have been something different, because the flare up happened at the media timeout immediately following that. Both parties were pretty heated, but then Mekhi Mitchell came out and played almost all the second half right after that too. But as soon as that happened, as soon as that flare up happened, Arkansas cuts the game to 12. There's the flare up. Mekhi Mitchell gets relegated to the bench. LSU immediately goes on a 9-0 run. And then, so LSU's up 21, and Mekhi Mitchell goes back in the game. And then I think the lead gets cut down to like 16 after that. So just a terrible end of the half. Terrible play overall. I think the second half was kind of, LSU was still pushing a little bit. They were still battling, especially late, but not like full force effort. I think it could have been a lot worse. Arkansas got to the free throw line a lot, didn't make a ton of free throws, a lot of garbage time baskets as well. It was just, I don't want to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, LSU just had like a really good shooting day. They did. But that's not the reason the game was so lopsided. And part of the reason they had such a good shooting day is because they had so many wide open looks.
All right, there you have it. That's a good way to sum it up. A lot of analysis there. So yeah, I mean, 95-74, LSU beats Arkansas. Here's the thing, and this is from Jeff Borzello. Today's 21-point loss out of LSU was Arkansas's fourth 20-point loss this season. The Razorbacks had 4 20-point losses total in the previous 4 seasons under Eric Musselman. Not great, not awesome, but that's where they're at right now. I think one of the first quotes that came through from Eric Musselman's press conference was just that they've got to get a lot better. And at this point, you're 11-11. You're 2-7 in conference play. I really don't know how much. I mean, like, look, anything can happen, but we don't know when you're going to get Trevor Brazile back. We don't know what's going to happen with Devo Davis, and so you have to figure it out with the pieces you have. And you thought after the Kentucky and Missouri games that maybe you figured something out, and then we saw tonight that you might not have figured something out. You're at least getting some consistent production from Jalen Graham and Mekhi Mitchell and Tremont Mark, but like everybody else, I mean, the defense tonight was just atrocious. You mentioned it. LSU shot the ball really well, but Arkansas also played its part there. So we're going to get into some more analysis here in a second, but I want to remind you about Bet Saracen, the official mobile sports gambling partner of HawgBeat.com. Bet Saracen, visit the Bet Saracen app today wherever you download your apps, and you can get in on all the action, especially Arkansas. They have the double R props for the Arkansas games. And if you pick the HawgBeat pick, you got to be doing this. You got to go to HawgBeat.com, HawgBeat.com. You see it at the bottom, scrolling the whole show. If you go to HawgBeat.com before games, we always give out a pick. Today's pick hit. Shout out me. I'm the one who made the pick. Let's see. What was it? I just want to confirm. Leighton Blocker, over 3.5 points and over. He just had to have 4 points in an offensive rebound. It was at plus 115 odds. He had 9 points and 1 offensive rebound, 3 rebounds total. So you would have hit if you took the HawgBeat pick. So make sure you download Bet Saracen. That's where you can get those props. I don't know if you can get those anywhere else. So only Bet Saracen. Thank you to Bet Saracen for partnering with us. All right, Jackson, let's get into some more analysis. So you talked about Baker. You talked about Arkansas defensively. From this game moving forward, were there any positives that you saw that you think maybe Arkansas could build on this? This is something, they ended the game on a 7-0 run,
I mean, technically, yeah, you can look and try to take positives from this. I mean, Tremont Mark did what Tremont Mark does. He scored really well and efficiently, and he rebounded well tonight. You had the Twin Tower lineup with Graham and Mitchell playing really well. Leighton Blocker, again, I think outside of him gambling like 2 or 3 times defensively, I thought he played phenomenal on-ball defense. Needs to knock down free throws a little bit more. But he facilitated well. I mean, at one point, this team, I think it was at halftime, the team had 5 total assists, and they were completely responsible from Mekhi Mitchell and Leighton Blocker. I think Mitchell finished with 4 assists. Blocker finished with 3 assists. Blocker had a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. I think as a true freshman going on the road and playing the point guard position, I think that's about as good as you can ask for. Need him to hit some more free throws, though. He was 4 or 5 at one point. Think he finished. What did he finish at from the free throw line? He finished 5 of 10. So he was one of his last 5. Could be legs, could be whatever. But yeah, there are positives you can take away. I don't know if I will choose to take much from them, but you can look for them for sure.
I'm trying to pull up the box score. Let's just pull up stat broadcast right here. Let's share the screen. You see this? You see stat broadcast? Okay. Yeah. I mean, not great. So you go down through here. Jamal Mark 20, Jalen Graham 18, Mekhi Mitchell 10. Tell me any numbers from here, Jackson, that stand out to you. Maybe any of the comparisons. I mean, you look at it. Arkansas had more points in the paint, more fast break points, but 19 points off turnover for LSU, one more rebound. It's just the field goal percentage, the 12 made threes. Like you can't when you give up 12 made threes, like it's just what are you going to do, right? I mean,
Yeah, and that goes back to what I said. Like LSU was hitting shots. Like some of them were tough shots, some of them were contested shots, but for the most part, it seemed like they were just getting what they wanted. 12 of 23 from three. That's insane. It's not unheard of, but it's very good. I mean, some of your best shooting teams in the country are averaging 35, 36% from three during a game. So to shoot over 50%, that's just not good. One thing that stuck out to me too, Caleb Battle didn't play much at all. Came out, he started the game and played really hard. He did something really cool, stole like the tip right out the gate. And then was playing hard. He dove on the floor like 2 or 3 times, grabbed a rebound or something, I think, early on. Didn't score, but I thought he was playing like at least decent defense. And then we never saw him again. It didn't feel like he only played 9 minutes, according to Stat Broadcast today.
so I'm reading your tweet here. Ties LSU's largest regular season win over Arkansas in program history.
Yes. So that was one thing that Peter Burns from SEC Network tweeted out, that today's loss to LSU, it ties the worst loss that Arkansas has ever suffered to LSU in regular season in basketball, which I had a tweet, I don't know, it's been a few weeks now, where I mentioned how historic of a season this was for Arkansas for all the wrong reasons. I'm going to have to add more to it now, but that included something like, dating back to as far back as box scores go, the Auburn loss was the worst home loss in program history. That was also the worst loss in Bud Walton Arena history. It was something like the fourth worst loss in South Carolina history, and it was the worst since like 2015, 2016. And then we saw it was the second worst loss to Ole Miss this season, with the worst being in 1973. So it's bad. It's historic in the worst way possible.
Yeah. Yep. Not setting the type of records that you want to set. So we're gonna get to some of the questions. We see your questions here on Twitter. So make sure you're sending those in on Twitter or YouTube, wherever you're watching, and we're gonna get to them. But we do have some live quotes coming in from Eric Musselman via the Trough Premium message board on HawgBeat.com. Managing editor Riley McFerrin listening to the press conference. So here we go. This is from Eric Musselman. I assume this is probably like his opening statement. Certainly have to give LSU credit, but we have to get a lot better. Defending the three has been a problem all year. It's our job as coaches to get them to execute the game plan. We knew they were a good three-point shooting team. Will Baker had a career night, and then Cook comes in. Defensively not good, offensively not good. Was hoping we could capitalize off the last two games, but we did not. Yeah, man, that's like the big thing is you were hoping you could capitalize off of it. Winnable games. That's what we were talking about after the Missouri game. You got to win the winnable games, and this was a winnable game, and they couldn't piece it together. I'm not gonna lie, Jackson. I kind of like tuned out of the game a little bit in the second half, and I feel like from our perspective, we have a job to do. We have to cover this team no matter what. But if I was an Arkansas basketball fan right now, I just don't know, how much I'd be wanting to turn on a game. And even this one, I probably would have turned it off at halftime. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know, man.
even though it's like my job to watch and cover this team and like be as in tune as possible. Like, it was very difficult. There were multiple times where something would happen and I'd actually laugh at just how bad the level of play was. And it doesn't make my job fun. And if the thought that keeps coming to my mind, if that's me, and like if I'm having these thoughts as I'm covering the team professionally, what's the average fan thinking? I've had comments on tweets where people are turning the games off in the first half, and I can't remember that ever happening with an Arkansas basketball team, even in the Mike Anderson era. I can't remember that happening because his teams, even though he didn't win a lot of like major games, didn't have a ton of success in the NCAA tournament, his teams always like played hard. Uh, so like, yeah, they had some blowout losses here and there, but I mean, that happens to every program. You see Kentucky get blown out occasionally, Tennessee, whatever, it happens. But it's just this season feels like a weird anomaly, especially for being year 5, especially for the success that the program has had the past 3 years. I don't understand what's gone so wrong for it to be so bad of like historic proportions, where fans are coming to my tweets in droves saying that they're not watching anymore as soon as halftime hits, or they're not watching anymore like with 12 minutes left in the first half or whatever. It's just crazy.
Yeah, man, it's been tough. It's I'm trying to find some sort of happiness. Going to baseball scrimmages has helped. But there's too much negativity going around. I don't like it. It obviously losing contributes to that. Like winning solves a lot of problems. So if you're the Arkansas basketball team, you want to win because then people are going to say good things about you. But I mean, like, here we go. Matt Calhoun, he says it. The light has gone out of his life. I mean, if you're an Arkansas basketball fan, that's kind of how it's got to feel. Um, you know, let's go ahead and get into some of these questions because we got about 12 minutes left here on the HawgBeat Hoops post-game show. Thank you, everybody who's tuning in. Thank you, everybody who's sending in the questions. Make sure you visit HawgBeat.com, HawgBeat.com. That's where we have all of our coverage, not just post-game shows, everything, including baseball, basketball, football, all you want. I'm reading some of these comments. Let's go to Adam Shipman. We should start having people put in their location as if they're a caller on radio. We're gonna go to Adam from, let's say he's in Fort Smith. Jackson, do you think this team can recover and be good next year?
We might need to get their location to do wellness checks on them at this point.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
goodness. I'm not gonna speculate a ton on next year. Like, we don't know what the roster looks like at all. I would imagine with Eric Musselman's track record that Arkansas should be able to recover and have a good season next year. Uh, it'll be weird looking at like what he takes from this season in terms of building next year's roster. Like, does he go after more defensive guards again? Does he go after the 6'6", 6'7" type of wings like Adisi Toney, Stanley Amude, like he's gone with in the past? Does he go for another true 5 or anything like that? Who knows? There are 2 freshmen coming in. You have a good core to build around, it seems like, with Layden Blocker, Bay Falk. Caleb Battle has eligibility to come back. Tremont Mark has eligibility to come back. So, I don't know for sure, but I'll be in wait and see mode depending on what the roster looks like. But I would imagine, given Musselman's track record and ability to land talent, that it should be okay.
I'm reading through some more of the Eric Musselman post-game quotes. I thought you might find this interesting. Caleb Battle did not play in the second half due to coach's decision. Any thoughts on that?
I don't understand that at all, because when the game tipped, Arkansas came out with a ton of effort immediately. And a lot of that, in my opinion, was because of Caleb Battle. He was diving on the floor for loose balls. He was he was the one that stole the opening jump and all that sort of stuff. I think he only took 1 shot. He took 3 shots, but he didn't hit any of them. But I thought he was playing like fine defense. The effort was up a ton. Like, he had cranked it all the way up to 11, which I thought is what Arkansas needed. That's what this team lacked for most of the season. Finally got it against Kentucky, got it against Missouri. And so they came out playing with a ton of energy against LSU today. And I thought Battle was a big reason for that. So yeah, that does surprise me. I don't understand why that was a coach's decision. Would be interested to hear any further comment on that. I doubt we'll get it, but that's surprising to me.
And then the last thing, so it looks like he did comment on his little scuffle with Mekhi Mitchell. This is just this is not, this might not be word for word, but this is basically what Eric Musselman said. Yeah, I think Kai is trying to do the right thing. Baker's hitting threes, but it's a 5-man defense. We got to get better at that. I'd like to see the clip.
I would need the clip again too, because there might have been another defensive possession in there or something. But it seemed like watching live when Kai got the steal and tried to pass it out to Minifield in transition, that it was a turnover and Muss started yelling at him and Kai threw up his hands. And I'm just going based on memory. This could all be wrong too, but that's what I thought I remembered seeing. And maybe there's an extra defensive possession in there to talk about like the comment that he just mentioned. And then they got into it. I don't know, but yeah, that's interesting as well. Especially considering the fact that I think for most of the game, obviously I talked about at the opening, Mekhi Mitchell was not really playing Will Baker all that close because I don't think that was part of the game plan with him being a 29% 3-point shooter. They switched a little bit how they defended him. Mekhi Mitchell really didn't allow Baker to do all that much in the second half or late in the first. I think that's why Arkansas was able to go on their run late in the first. Was Baker was off the floor, and then Baker came back on, and Mekhi was matched up with him pretty decently. I don't think Graham, Lawson, or Harris stopped him at all, to be frank. So if we're talking about 5-man defense, I don't know about that.
Okay. Let's see here. Luke says we need LeBron. I don't think that's going to happen. Sorry, Luke.
He does have college eligibility.
He does have college eligibility. KJ, who might be the next quarterback for the University of Arkansas at this rate, should we go back and get one-and-done freshmen rather than portal players? Anthony Black was really good last year,
He was. I think there needs to be a healthy balance because this team is what? There's 5 guys returning from last year. There were 2 true freshmen and like 7 portal players, with a majority of the lineup being built around those portal players. Obviously, Layden Blocker's got some run, but hasn't been super consistent. The last few games it has been, at least. But the entire roster is built around like L. Ellis, Caleb Battle, Tremont Mark. And Jeremiah Davenport really is being your guys. Chandler Lawson. L. Ellis recorded a DNP today. So there's that. Those guys necessarily haven't like produced the level they were supposed to or expected to. For the most part, I think Tremont Mark has been fantastic. Caleb Battle looked really good early in the season. But it's hard to mesh portal players. So many portal players in one season. I think you do need some retention. One way to do that is getting high school players. Not every high school player you're going to get is going to be a one and done. So I think a good mix of having, maybe 1 or 2 top high school prospects with another couple of like top end high school prospects that might not be one and done, but only stay in college 2 or 3 years, and then top it off with like, 3 or 4 returners and 3 or so transfer portal guys. And I think that's a formula right there.
All right, we're going to get to 2 more questions. So this is going to be one of them. We're going to take Matt this time. He gave us his location. He's in Toadsuck. Who knows if that's for real, but shout out Toadsuck. I'm from Conway. Shout out Toadsuck Days and Toadsuck, the actual place. Long-time listener, second-time caller from Toadsuck. Do you think Brazil comes back at all this year? Great question, Matt.
That is a fantastic question. To be determined. I don't know. I don't really know his injury status. I don't know anything at all about that situation specifically. So, we'll just have to see. Hopefully, he can get back. He provides a matchup problem for Arkansas with, he's a stretch 4, can shoot the 3 ball and can block shots. So, and he's an extra depth piece at this point because this team looked like it was gassed pretty late too. So, but who knows?
Okay. I don't know, man. Like, do you think that so a big topic of discussion entering this game was that Arkansas had played better and looked more connected against Kentucky and Missouri. Two common things with those games was no Devo Davis and no Trevin Brazile. I mean, do you think that has anything to do with it? Do you think that maybe they had some of that off the court stuff going on? They wanted to play harder, like us against the world. What's your take on that? Because I feel like everybody's thinking it. Let's just talk about it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's hard because on one hand, I don't want to be like, oh, correlation doesn't equal causation. Like, just because they haven't played in the last two games and Arkansas looks better doesn't necessarily mean that Arkansas is better off without them. Didn't play today, and Arkansas didn't look good at all. So I'm kind of hesitant to just go ahead and say that. But on the other hand, too, it's like, well, it was almost immediate where as soon as the two of them were no longer in the fold, the team immediately played better. Looked like they were playing with a lot more chemistry, a lot more energy and effort. So it's a hard answer. I don't know one way or the other. I truly don't. I think if we had a larger sample size, it'd be easier to answer. We'll see with next week if Brazil is still out next week and there's a better Arkansas performance there, then I think you're able to say, well, yeah, I think there is something to it. But after today, I lean more back towards who knows. Now, if it was a better performance today, I would definitely be in the camp of, oh yeah, no, there's something there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, today kind of does throw a wrench in that storyline for now. So we'll see. Let's see if I can get this picture to show up. Yep, there we go. There it is.
He just looks defeated.
That's I feel like this is Eric Musselman, the Razorback basketball team, Razorback fans, us. This is about where we're at.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of, we'll just leave it there for a second and then we'll hide it. Okay. We got about a minute and a half left here on the HawgBeat Hoops post-game show. Appreciate everybody being on here. One thing I want to ask you about, Jackson, can we be done with the ESPN graphic of what Arkansas has started in SEC play the past 3 years, what they've done now, and what they ended with the last 3 years, and just question mark for this year? I think we can just rule out it's not the same as the past 3 years at all.
Yeah, no, I've been tired of that for a while now. It's just getting old, and the thing is too, it's like it only highlights a downward trajectory. If we're being honest, like, okay, there's really good regular season and an Elite Eight year one. There's pretty good regular season with an Elite Eight year two. There's average to bad regular season with a Sweet 16, and now awful regular season with no NCAA tournament hopes whatsoever. So, like, and I'm not necessarily like making the argument like, oh, the program's on a decline, like it's going to decline in the future. But when you highlight that graph, objective viewers are going to look like, well, doesn't that just look like it's been going down for a little bit now? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I'm tired of the graphic because you're right. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't apply this year. There is no recovering this season unless they somehow win the SEC tournament. They're just not. But
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap this puppy up. Arkansas loses at LSU 95-74, back to 500, 11-11 overall on the year, 2-7 in conference play. Really appreciate everybody sticking with us for this show. Want to encourage you to visit HawgBeat.com, HawgBeat.com. That is the Rivals website covering your Arkansas Razorbacks. I'm the publisher. Jackson is the basketball analyst, the basketball guy, JC Hoops. You know him. And visit Bet Saracen, the official mobile sports gambling partner of HawgBeat.com. We love Bet Saracen. If you took our advice on our pick for this game, you would have made some money. So that's all I'm going to say. Look,
makes up for last week.
If you're not pro making money, then I don't know what you're doing. So make sure you visit Bet Saracen and also HawgBeat.com. I should throw out that I'm not guaranteeing a win ever. It just so happened that we won today. So before we go, we'll give you one last look. There it is.
Do you see what you did to Matt?
Matt lost his house again this week betting Saracens. But the thing is, Matt, you could have made your house back if you would have took our advice and took the Layden blocker prop bet for this game. Arkansas lost, but you could have won. That's all I'm saying. So, yes, appreciate everybody. Visit HawgBeat.com, download Bet Saracen, and we will talk to everybody. It's going to be a minute, a little bit of a break. No game this week until Saturday. So,
Might be what's best.
yes, best for Arkansas, maybe best for you guys. Maybe we'll bring the Diamond Hawks podcast back this week. A little bit early Christmas. So we'll see.